last video, which was the Sinclair Spectrum and the timeline, plus also was the recreated Spectrum a good enough tribute to the Sinclair Spectrum? And I didn't think it was. So I introduced the concept of, do we need a modern micro? And there's a lot of people out there who think we do, and there's also a lot of people who seem to think that their time has passed, which is understandable because it is quite a long time ago. But to go down the route of proving that we need another micro, or we could do with it another micro around the same type of concept of when the original micros were launched, I thought, let's have a little bit of a play with emulation. And the 8-bit scene and the 8-bit micros are probably the easiest to emulate, because you tend to only have one ROM on them which has BASIC, and it also is a lot easier to reproduce accurately than some of the 16 and 32-bit machines. The idea was that I was going to originally look at doing a kind of video similar to what I'm doing now, but with the Spectrum. But my young son decided that he liked what he did in the video he did with programming on the Texas Instruments Ti99. He asked if he could do some more. So I used that opportunity to use an emulator and to see if he found any real differences, or if he thought one was better than the other. And the outcome was surprising, and it was surprising in the way I kind of thought it was going to be, if that makes sense, but it'll kind of make a little bit more sense through this video. So what I'm going to show you is the Texas Instruments emulator. Basically it's a fully fledged PC running what is basically a Ti99 4A under emulation, and as you can see, there's not a lot between the real system and the emulated system. In fact, I think the emulated system loses out on the nostalgia basis, but it doesn't lose out on its usability. And it also makes ease of use a little bit better, because you have things like the ROMs and the game packages and the application packages all in one tidy system. So I'm going to run through what the modern PC emulating the Ti99 does and what I think of it. And then I'm going to show you what a small boy thinks of it after using a real Ti99 4A, and whether or not he has his own kind of viewpoint on this. First up, we're going to just bring up the normal TI screen, and this is nothing out of the ordinary. You can see it's running under Windows if you look at the taskbar at the bottom, and we're going to start off with the diagnostic tests. And as you can see, we're just going to run through a few automatic tests, and starting with a checkerboard. Okay, and this passes with flying colours. The software doesn't know any different, and it's the same with the graphical test and the collision test on here. The software doesn't seem to know any different, that it's not actually running on a proper Ti99. Colour palette test comes back with exactly the same results, and for all intents and purposes this is a Ti99 4A, because that's all the software thinks it's running on. It doesn't know about the layers underneath the emulation. All it sees is the right returns coming back for what it's expecting and the results it's expecting. And as you can see, it's not causing any problems whatsoever. So now we try something a little bit more complicated, such as a Space Invaders game, and as you can see, normal screen and normal introduction to the game, and it looks identical. The gameplay is the same, there's no delay, the game is as bright and as same colours, same colour palette, same resolution, and the same speed for the gameplay. And the final test is the Texas Instruments demonstration, and as you can see, it's in typical 1980s style, or rather late 1970s style, and it's just going through a quick demonstration of what they thought people wanted out of a home computer at the time. And as you can see, it runs this demonstration with no issues. It's almost as if it's running on native hardware. That's quite a cheesy demo if you put it compared to modern equipment, but you know, it gives you a rough idea of what they thought the machine could kind of be used for. But as I said, it's identical to a proper Ti99 4A.
I'm going to program a classic computer. It's a Ti99 4A.
So what does rem mean?
Remark.
Call is to call an instruction up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how
Call
you do
it
it.
clear the screen.
Yeah. Do you like using that PC, or do you want to use the prefer using the original one?
That one.
Why?
Because this one, yeah, you don't have to put the book here, and then you won't be able to see some of them.
But to work it, which one's nicer to work?
This one.
Okay, cool. So, Marcus had another go at programming, but this time he used a normal, everyday, current PC, and he preferred the use of the modern PC, and it was mainly because it took up less desk space. Obviously he could put his book to one side, but also because the keyboard was better to use. You see on the Ti99 the keyboard's a little bit on the clunky side because it's a reduced keyboard. It's quite shrunken in comparison to most keyboards, and also having to use the function key to cursor around the screen with the cursor keys is a little bit confusing at first, but because of the mapping on the emulator, it gets rid of that and you can use the standard arrow keys. And this is one of my thoughts, is the fact that if we replicate a classic micro, we're going to inherit all of the traits, so all the inherited traits which we didn't know about when the micros come out, that they were going to cause problems, okay, such as multifunction cursor keys and all this kind of thing, reduced size keyboards, enter keys that are a little bit too small. We've gotten over that on modern machines, so if we go down the route of putting out a re-engineered classic micro without negating these problems, without getting rid of these problems, then we're going to alienate a lot of people who would like to get into them, because they're not going to be as intuitive to use, especially keyboards, because they have changed quite a lot over the years, and there is a standard. It's been since the early 90s onwards, there's been a standard in key layouts. So that's probably one of the first things, but the actual function of the machine, whether it's emulated or classic, they're still useful. And as you could see, just loading up and running BASIC on its own was still useful to somebody who wants to learn. So people who want to learn and want to tinker with the machines are going to want the hardware, I believe, because the emulator is restrictive in the fact that you cannot plug things into the machine to make them work as additions to the basic micro. So although the emulators and emulations are quite good, and they're good at running software that was out at the time, and they're good at running basic that's out at the time, I think we're kind of losing out on the connectivity. But that's something we need to really look at. So there's a few more emulators and a few more versions of hardware that's emulating classic hardware to come down the line. And this is roughly what we need to do, is to work out what exactly is needed, if at all a modern micro is needed. So from today's video we take away the fact that makes no difference whatsoever whether it's emulated or not to somebody who's just starting out and wants to learn. But what does make the difference is the ease of use. So that's something that needs to be addressed if and when a modern version of a micro built on the same principles and ethos is ever produced. Okay, so I hope this was interesting, and I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for your time. And if you like it, subscribe, and we will be doing more on this over the following months. Okay, so it's going to take quite a while to get things in motion, to decide which direction we're going to do. So we're going to do it properly by doing this. So I hope you subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.